Well, former Florida Speaker of the House Marco Rubio is the son of Cuban immigrants. He's also a Republican running for the United States Senate in the state of Florida. Marco Rubio joins us live. Good evening, sir. And I have read that you have blasted the Senate Majority Leader for that statement.
Well, first of all, let me say Harry Reid has a history of statements like this. He said outrageous things about President Bush. He's even said outrageous things about Barack Obama before he was president. It's been well documented. I also think this is part of a concerted effort. You know, the Democrat majority in Washington has implemented an agenda that's well outside the mainstream of America, has been a disaster for our country. They can't win on the issues. So I think increasingly you're going to hear talk like this. You've heard it a few weeks ago regarding calling Tea Party participants racist, and now this. But let me explain to Harry Reid why Hispanics, Americans of Hispanic descent, would want to be Republicans. And it's a pretty simple concept. The number one issue in the Hispanic community in America is economic empowerment. It's the desire of people to leave their children better off than themselves. It's the reason why my parents worked 2 jobs and sacrificed throughout their lives so that I would have the opportunity to do things that they never could do. Let me tell you why that was possible. It was possible because of God. It was possible because of their sacrifices. And it was possible because of the American free enterprise system. And the agenda that Harry Reid supports is trying to destroy and dismantle the American free enterprise system. And so that's why Hispanics should be Republicans, and I believe a growing number of Hispanics will become Republicans over the last few years because the agenda that Harry Reid supports kills Hispanics' dreams for their children.
To what extent, if any, do you think his statements are linked to the immigration discussion that's going on in this country?
Well, here's what they're linked to, is that they can't win an argument on the ideas. Their public policy is well outside the mainstream of America. The vast majority of Americans are saying, we want the United States to be the best place in the world to do business. And the Democratic agenda is an anti-business agenda. I mean, virtually everything they propose, from tax increases next year, to value-added taxes, to allowing the Environmental Protection Agency to implement cap and trade, to the Obamacare bill, which is a job killer, to card check. I mean, on issue after issue, they are proposing an anti-business, job-killing agenda. And so that's well outside the mainstream of what America wants. And so they've got to make this election about other things, like, you know, class warfare, or talk about ethnicity and things of that nature. And it's very tragic and it's very sad, but it's not going to work.
If you are elected to the United States Senate from the state of Florida, can you work with Senator Harry Reid?
I'll work with anybody that wants to protect America's exceptionalism. I'll work across the aisle with anyone who is interested in doing things like making sure America is the strongest country in the world, making sure we're the best place in the world to do business, and making sure that our debt can be brought under control. How do you do that?
I guess let me back up a little bit. I mean, it's like everyone who runs for office right now is saying, I'm an outsider, I'm different, I'm interested in the United States, I'm interested in the American dream, I'm interested in jobs. I mean, I know those things and we all do want those, but how do you actually implement? How do you move the United States Senate forward on these issues?
Well, I can't do it by myself. I mean, I'm hoping that all across America there are people running for office that believe in the same things, and that there'll be some conversions as well after the election cycle, because it'll be a successful platform to campaign on. And then we have to be held accountable. I mean, look, Republicans are just as guilty of this as Democrats. You know, Republicans had the majority, and they didn't implement things like a balanced budget amendment. They didn't implement things like the kind of spending constraints, banning earmarks, for example. And that's why they lost the majority. So I hope the Republicans can retake the majority in Washington, D.C., learn the lessons from their mistakes, and never again go back to them, but instead actually confront the issues of our time so that we can leave our children with a better country than the one we found.
When you talk about earmarks, you know, you lose a lot of friends back home when you don't get earmarks for back home, if you sort of take the hard line on it. Or when you talk about balancing the budget, that means your community, your jurisdiction doesn't get the money for the extra teachers or whatever it is you're looking for. I mean, it all sounds so good, but the problem is that, you know, it sounds great for the other guy, for the other state. I mean, how do you convince your constituents that those things, those tough decisions, are good for them?
If we don't make them, we're going to go bankrupt. If we don't make them, we're going to look like Greece. If we continue to spend more money than we take in, we're going to have a big, ugly problem in America in the very near future. We are simply spending too much money, more money than we take in as a government. It's not about wanting these programs. It's not about not having worthy causes to find money to spend on. It's the fact that we can't afford it. And if we continue down this road, we are going to leave our children a diminished America, a nation just like everybody else, no longer exceptional. People don't want that. I think the time has come and people are prepared to accept the difficult choices and the important decisions that have to be made, because if we make them, our children will have the chance to be the freest and most prosperous Americans ever.
All right, if you're elected, but the majority is still the Democratic Party, so you're one of the minority, can you give in on some of your principles, and can you negotiate?
I think you always negotiate on ideas, never on your principles. As I told you, we'll work with anybody that wants to keep America exceptional, but we'll fight anyone that tries to redefine America and make it just like everybody else.
Well, good luck. We'll be watching this race because, indeed, your race certainly is one of those that the country is watching. It certainly is fascinating, especially since Governor Christie is now running as an independent, and there's also a primary that will determine your opponent come August 24th. So good luck, sir.
Thank you.